I will put clothes. Or if I want to use, like when you want to use lipstick, you think of
Me?
you're beautiful.
I don't wear makeup, so
Yeah, so
I don't own one lipstick.
anything I want
I
to
don't
do,
wear makeup
anything I want to do, I will check. Even
because I'm
clothes.
very lazy. So I haven't got time to be this.
I do that all the time.
No.
All the time. All the time.
No, when it comes to makeup,
It's just
yeah.
like makeup. When you want to make up, you think, should I use pink? Should I use, you know? It's the same thing with kitchen.
Having my bath, I could probably spend like 5 minutes. Wash the,
But
you
your
know, the
makeup.
most, but makeup.
Yeah.
From even where makeup was no makeup.
Whereas now it's all
Yeah,
contouring.
there's a lot of contouring
Like,
and
who's
all
got
that.
time for that? Hey. Please.
Oh my God. So hello everyone. Good morning. It's another Friday. Thank God it's Friday. I don't know if I'm going to rest. Schools are on holiday, so no rest for people like us. Good morning. This is Ehino on Wonderfully Made Woman Talk Show. Wonderfully Made Woman Talk Show aims to address issues relating to women and girls in a holistic context. Like I always say, if you are a woman, this show is for you. If you're a man and you're born of a woman, or you have a wife, a girlfriend, you have daughters, then this show is certainly for you. Wonderfully Made Woman Talk Show is on every Friday at 11 a.m. We're on Facebook Live and we're also on YouTube. You can watch our various topics that we've done in the past on our YouTube and learn and be educated. Today is a very, very wonderful day. I almost didn't want to do the show again. For those of you who have young kids, honestly, this period when it's holiday, you can really, really get things messed up. But yeah, we're here today, this morning, with all the kids around me, around us now. So if you hear any noise or the door opening, please bear with us today. We didn't want to cancel the show. You know, for a few weeks, we've been talking about my success story. So women have been coming to talk about the challenges they had in the past and how they were able to overcome those challenges. This month in August, we decided to talk about a topic that people will hardly talk about. A topic that is so dear in my heart because I've realized that people are going through tough times, including myself sometimes, and we decided that we are going to make space to speak about the unspeakable, suicide, the unsaid. Suicide is a topic where people don't want to talk about it, and yet you see so many people around you, or maybe yourself, have one time, you know, wanted to end your life because of the challenges that you went through. We, as opponents, have been victims of such thoughts. So last week we started a series, Suicide, the Unsaid. We want to encourage people to share their story, raise awareness about this thing, and how people can get support, how people can get help, so they don't kill themselves. Last week we had a guest whose uncle lost his life. He killed himself because of an incident in the office, and she talked about how this affected her and her family, how she was able to cope, and how she was able to move on. And now she's now helping other people who are in that same situation, thinking about how they want to end their lives, you know, being fed up of life. She's now helping those people in her flower shop. So if you are there today, you've had such thoughts in the past, or you know someone somewhere who is having such thoughts, please make sure that you give a helping hand. Make sure you love them, make sure you accept them for who they are, and give them that moral, physical, emotional support that they need. Wonderfully Made Woman helps women and girls build their confidence so they can thrive. And that is why we're talking about this topic, That is why we are so passionate about it. And I'm so happy and I'm so blessed to have two wonderful guests who are ready to share their experience with people so they can be aware, so that they can get help, so they can get support, so that if you are there listening or watching and you're having such thoughts, you don't think that you're alone. We have been through it before. And because we've been able to overcome it, we believe that you can overcome it. So just to stop there, I'm going to allow my guests introduce themselves. But first of all, my guest on the right, I just want to say a bit so she doesn't forget the things she sent to me yesterday, which was really mind-blowing. I've known her for years. She's a wonderful friend, a mentor, you know. I just love the way she does the things, regardless of what she's gone through. She is a survivor. She is a survivor of severe childhood rape, sexual, physical, mental, emotional, and psychological abuse. She spent her childhood in and out of hospital, care homes, as a result of the abuse. She has had psychiatric input since she was age 7 as a result of that abuse. A domestic violence survivor, married for 6 years to a man who beat her through 2 pregnancies. But she finally found the courage to flee. She was recovering alcoholic for over 20 years. She was sober, she was depressed. She was sanctioned multiple times. She lived with mental health issues. But you know, with all of these sad things that I'm mentioning, the good news is this woman did not give up. She's here today and she helps other people who have mental health issues. On my left, a dear friend, a woman that encourages me. She's so full of passion and joy and happiness. You need to go on her page to see how she has decided to use the lime of her life and change it into lemon. The way she has used her pain and turned it into gain to bring happiness into her life regardless of what she went through. She's a media practitioner, an experience in media production and marketing communication. She has passion for women and children. She runs a fertility awareness group that supports women living with infertility. She has lost pregnancies, failed IVF, had suicide thoughts as well. But today, she's still alive. So my guests will be sharing their stories to let you know that you're not alone, to let you know that you can overcome that suicide thoughts that you're having right now, to let you know that once you're alive, there is hope for you, that there's something, just one thing to live for. So today, I'm going to allow you, first of all, thank you. She came all the way from Sheffield this morning. Maybe that's why we didn't cancel the show. Because I was struggling with childcare. And I thought, you know what, it would be so bad for me to cancel a show after she left her bed this cold morning to come to Manchester. So thank you so much for coming. So please tell the viewers your name and what you do.
Okay, my name is Ursula Myrie. I run an organisation called Adira. Adira is a Hebrew word. It means strong, dignified, powerful, because that is what we are empowering the black community to be. When we started Adira, it was originally started to work with women with mental health issues, black women specifically with mental health issues. But because of the other things that we now incorporate, like conferences and events, we've had to change our remit. So now we support black people in the community with mental health issues. And Adira was born out of my own experiences, my own mental health issues, my own battle with self-harming, my own battle with being a single parent, the problems that come with that, my own battle with domestic violence. That's how Adira got started. And so right now, that is my passion.
Wow. Welcome.
Thank you.
You're so wonderful. And to my left, the bubbling sister. We're popularly known as UJ. You're welcome to the show. She's got cold as well,
Yeah.
but she made it here. That's how passionate we are. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
And just in case you hear the dogs and the baby crying, we will just have to attend to that child. It's part of what we do as women. Yeah, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, she's done much of the introduction. There's a lot in the
Your name?
pipeline.
Yeah.
My name is Uju Mulum, popularly known as UJ on social media. I think I use that as a brand, all through. And at the moment, I'm an online entrepreneur alongside other things, that she's described. And we're working on other projects as well. So, yeah, I might be a regular face here, isn't it?
And she's been on this show before. When we talked about success story, she came to share her story of her being unable to conceive for some years, then how she was having failed IVFs, how she was depressed, and today she's got 2 beautiful kids. If you want to watch that wonderful topic, you need to be going on our YouTube channel, Wonderfully Made Woman. So inspired by her story, and I respect her for that. I respect both of them who have survived in their challenges to be able to educate other people. I think you also can do it. Last week, we had a topic, the first episode, Suicide, Dion said, and the guest, she was talking about how her uncle committed suicide, how it affected her and her family, how she was able to cope as well. And after that show, we got a lot of messages, and it breaks my heart to see that, yes, I know definitely there will be people around me who are going through a lot, but my heart was broken when I realized that there were so many people close to me who were actually having this thought as well, who were passing through a lot, and I didn't even know. And that is why, I just felt that it was the right time. I was going to do the topic last year, I couldn't. Then the guest last week came and told me the uncle died. I had a friend whose husband also, died like that, and it was an emotional period for me. But I thought, you know what? We need to start talking about this thing, and to realize that men from 20 to 49 years actually do commit suicide more, and that in UK alone in 2016, over 5,000 people committed suicide. Honestly, you need to watch last week's episode. And I don't know if I'm depressed, but I'm actually going for counseling now. Because it's alarming when you go on the internet to see how people are taking their lives, why people are taking their lives. You begin to realize that there's so much for us to do, not just for the government, but for us to raise awareness, to support one another, and to make sure that we are there for our friends and family. So today we'll continue on this suicide. Why do people want to take their lives? Mental health, is that why people take their lives? Is it a myth or a reality that when someone takes his or her own life, that person is actually going to hell? Those are the things we'll be discussing. But today, I want to start with you. What was your story, your life, as a young child? I knew, yes, you're a survivor of domestic violence. We've talked about that, laughed, cried over it.
Yeah.
But to think that at that young age, you have gone through so much. What was your story, and how did that affect your life?
My story was that I was born here. I was sent to Jamaica when I was 2. My parents are from Jamaica. I was sent to Jamaica when I was 2 with my youngest sister to be raised by her grandparents, because we don't have the same father. So it was her grandparents, and that was where the abuse started. Her grandmother hated me, absolutely hated me, and they would be very physically violent towards me. There would be a lot of beatings, a lot of verbal violence, but it was her grandfather, and because we lived in a very big house in Jamaica, some of the lodgers that her grandmother had taken in that would sexually abuse me. My own sister's grandfather would sexually abuse me, and then the grandmother would be verbally and physically and mentally and emotionally abusive to me. And then it was when my mum came to Jamaica to visit us when I was 6 years old, and she came and she found blood and discharge in my knickers at 6 years old. So obviously she knew that, okay, something is happening here that shouldn't be happening. So she went back home to England, she saved, she brought me back here. And you know, at that age, you're thinking, yes, you know, I'm being taken out of the abuse, everything's going to be fine now. And it was out of the frying pan into the fire, literally, because when I came here, the abuse increased. My mother was very, very physically violent with us. She was the kind of person that she would beat you until she either heard something snap or she would see blood. She just wouldn't stop. And then every day it was the verbal abuse that you're being told every day that you're stupid and you're thick and you're worthless and you're useless and you're pathetic and you're good for nothing. And then she would allow men to come into the house, men from the church, to come into the house and rape us.
Wow.
And she knew it was
In
happening.
this country?
In this country. She knew it was happening. She would conveniently leave the house 5-10 minutes before they would come and conveniently come back home when they had finished. I remember the first time I was about 11, because the abuse didn't stop till I was about 15. And I was about 11 and I said, God, I cannot take this anymore. I didn't know at the time that my mother knew that these men were raping me. And I went to her and I told her, and she put the phone in front of me. And she called one of the men and said to him, my daughter has said. And I remember I was standing there shaking because I thought, if this man denies this, hey, I will be finished. She will kill me. Thank God he admitted it, that he had been doing that. The following week, Sunday, the front door knocked and I opened the door and it was him. And I was surprised to see him standing there at the door. And he said, oh, your mom has invited me for dinner. Wow. And I thought, but this, I told her last week, this is one of the men that has been coming to the house raping me weekly. And you spoke to him, he admitted it, and then you go and invite him for dinner the next week Sunday, and we had to sit there at the table and pretend as if nothing had happened. So that was my childhood, hence the reason why I had psychiatric input. I saw my first psychiatrist when I was 7, because I started cutting myself when I was 7, because of what was...
So did you tell your teacher, or how did you...
No, because you know, growing up in black
psychiatric
households, especially in Jamaican households, you are taught from the womb. You don't talk.
Yeah.
You don't talk your family's business outside of the home. And back then, sexual abuse, child abuse, it wasn't as prevalent as it was now. It wasn't taken as seriously as it was now. So even though, even as a child of 7, 8, I was getting thrush in my vagina. You shouldn't be getting those things as a 7-year-old. Nobody was questioning in it. The suicide attempts, I would attempt suicide and be taken into hospital. Nobody was questioning that. I would run away from home. They would take me, put me into care. But my mother was what you call a paragon of virtue. She was the epitome of the godly woman. She was an evangelist in the church. So the church, you know, couldn't have anything said against her, because it's almost like she had a split personality. In church, she's angel. At home, she's the devil himself. So when I would go to church and, you know, they would see these things, and my mother would testify and be saying, oh, my child has a devil, my child has a demon, she's a liar, she's this, the church, and she would be crying tears. They used to do what they call exorcism. So they would get the elders of the church, big grown men, to come and hold me down, be pouring the praying oil, shouting, come out in the name of Jesus, come out, trying to deliver demons out of me because of my behavior. But as a child, you're not designed to tolerate abuse. So my behavior would come out in self-harming or fighting. I started drinking when I was 9 years old.
Wow.
9 years old, I started drinking. And I didn't stop till I was 20, when I nearly died from alcohol poisoning. So I had to give up that. So that was my childhood.
That's a very, very, oh my God. Wow. I'm blown away, to be honest. To be honest, I don't know how many women are in this situation. Because sometimes people just say, oh, why did he kill herself? Or why did she attempt?
Exactly.
You don't know what they have been through.
That is the thing.
You don't know what they are going through. So you cannot judge. You're not in the the right person to judge that person.
Yeah.
You're not in that position to say, why did she want to go and commit suicide? Oh, I've known her to be an alcoholic. Why is she drinking? Why is he drinking? Just hearing her story alone, I can't even imagine it myself. Or I've got a daughter, I've got niece. I cannot imagine them going through what you went through as a child. And you still wonder why. Because when we talk about suicide, people are no longer checking. Why are people killing themselves? Why do people want to take their own lives?
Yeah.
People love themselves. Then when they get to that stage where they feel, you know what, I've had enough. Then we need to start questioning those things. We need to start raising awareness about it. And for those of you who sexually abuse children, don't think that you will always get away with it. I can't imagine this happen.
But you see, I don't know. I think a lot is beginning to happen in the world.
Yeah.
There's a video going around. You know this TED. You know the TED Talk,
Oh
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
where somebody's making a case for pedophilia, for pedophiles. Did you
Yes,
see that
to
video?
become
Yeah,
A sexual
Yeah.
orientation.
Yeah.
So I mean, a lot needs to be addressed because,
Honestly.
just like you said, we're becoming too selfish.
Yeah.
Humans are, because I mean, if you want to be a pedophile, not on somebody else's child,
Yeah.
maybe your own child, how would you feel? You know, if your own child is being taken advantage of? Because I mean, it's because I think because a lot of sexual orientations have been given the leeway,
Yeah.
you know, to come out and say this is who we are.
Mhm.
Every other person wants
It's
to take
coming out.
advantage. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're gay and you're having your sexual whatever with an adult, that's fine. But I think for children, it should be a no-no.
Yeah.
Because when I saw that video, I was like, why would anyone make a case for pedophilia? I mean, you're having
Terrible.
children.
Crazy.
As an adult, I know how it is, you know, when you have to have sexual intercourse. How
Can
much
you
more
imagine a
children?
child?
So,
It's terrible.
honestly, it's really terrible.
It's terrible. I'll come back to you. You know, you Jay, you told me something, and I honestly admire your courage to be able to talk. You know, sometimes when people come out and say they are motivational speakers and all that, you're not talking and sharing your experience. It baffles me how you want to empower people.
Yeah.
I honestly believe that I can relate with somebody who has gone through what I've gone
Yeah.
through, and I'll be ready to listen to that person. You know, when she told me, was it last week after the show, she said, hey, you know, do you know then I used to hear voices telling me to harm myself.
Yes.
I said, really, you
I live very
Eugene.
close to a train station, you know, and sometimes you hear in the news, oh, somebody jumped into the train, and you're like, oh, I mean, that's so easy, you know. And when you're passing, you're like, oh, it's so high. But the one that happens very often is one of the knife. Anytime I pick up a knife and the voice is like, why not just stab yourself and just...
Was it as a result of this, when you were infertility
Yeah.
and you failed IVF?
A lot, I don't know what exactly, but it's, you know, I think in the last 3 years I've been free of those thoughts.
Oh, thank
But
God for that.
Between 2012 and 2014, it was the peak of it all. I had a lot of,
Manchester?
I had a lot of health
Wow.
challenges. I used to have a blog, and I remembered one of the reasons why I stopped my blog was because I thought I was going to die. Yeah, and I remembered putting that up on the blog. I've actually removed
And you
it.
were gonna die.
I thought I wasn't going to make it through 2012, I think,
Yeah.
or 2013, something like that. And that year I had bouts and bouts of health challenges. You know what it is like, go to the hospital, and from one problem to the other, then they told me I had a murmuring heart. And I'm like, what's that? You know, I think I had about 2 surgeries that year. Mine was as a result of health challenges anyway.
Wow.
You know, then I think a particular medication might have been responsible for mine. Because at some point I went off the medication, then I was fine. Then when I got back on the medication, those thoughts started coming back again. So I realized, you know, I was like, and I haven't had that medication for years now, for about 3 years, which is why I'm kind of, you know, trying to, I don't know, but
Did you
I have-
read if it's one of the side effects?
And it's now that, you know, I mean, at that time it wasn't something, you know, I mean, because it was an occurring thing, so I couldn't place it, you know, on anything. But it's just that, you know, I'm wondering, I mean, what really changed?
Yeah.
2-3 years ago, nothing really changed, but I didn't have those thoughts.
Yeah.
So I really couldn't, you know, put it down to what it was, except for the medication, because I know sometimes, I think I probably had someone, I really can't remember, but maybe I need to do more research anyway, but
Wow.
the thoughts, you know.
So when you're in the kitchen and you hold a knife,
Yeah, when you get a knife, you know.
normally you wouldn't even want the knife to touch you. And here you are holding this knife and you're just looking and thinking, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you're
So
like.
what do you do? Do you drop the knife or?
Yeah, I think now this is where personality comes
Yeah.
in. Your experiences,
Your
you know,
faith.
your faith, exactly. Now, my faith tells me that if I commit suicide, I'm going to hellfire. I don't know how true that is. Then I'm also an expressive person. So sometimes when I snap, you know, especially where my husband is, I'm like, what am I even doing in this earth self? A dead person is, that was a phrase I've always used.
That is
A
dead
dead person is even better than me.
Yeah.
That was, you know, a common phrase. And he's like, why would you say that? I'm like, yeah, I mean, am I not just a burden from one health challenge to another, from one, you know?
Yeah.
And he's like, is anyone complaining? You know, but you're limited. At that time, you know, I was limited. There was so little I could do. I couldn't achieve things I had in mind that I could achieve. I was stagnant, you know. And that is where people should, you know, like we said, don't judge. Sometimes you see people with perfect lives and they commit suicide, like the likes of Kate Spade and all
Yeah.
that. You see, sometimes, no matter how rich they are, they still feel, oh, I don't feel fulfilled.
Yeah.
There's something about suicide and fulfillment. For her own case, at that time, she was probably young, but that wasn't the life she expected to
As
live.
a child.
So there was no fulfillment in that life.
Mm.
So usually, it comes with fulfillment. At that time, I just felt, you know, I was a burden. I felt I was useless. I felt I was unproductive. I felt, you know, there was nothing good that I could put to myself. But, you know, the good thing about it was I had family members, I had people, especially my husband, who would say, see, nobody is complaining, you're just the only one. Then he would start counting, you know, the things I need to look forward to.
Yeah.
So now, if I didn't have someone like that would listen to me, there are chances, you know. So when he says that, I'm like, okay, it's true. Then I come back again. But, you know, there's that 5 minutes of madness. It comes like a snap,
Yeah.
and the thought comes into you. You know, you're like, it comes again, and you're like, oh, of what use is it? Just end it all.
Wow. It baffles me when, you know, like I said, last year somebody lost his life and a close friend of mine. When I heard some things that the fellow Christians were talking about, I started thinking that, you know, we live a life of, we just want to judge people. We don't know what through. Even sitting here, you don't know what I'm going through. So when you see somebody like that, please deep down and find out why is this person wanting to kill himself or to kill herself. I don't know in Africa if they have a statistics of how many people do that. It's only now that there's social media that you hear that this person has killed himself
Yeah.
or has killed herself. But I'm telling you, on a daily basis, someone somewhere is thinking about it. Someone somewhere has actually done it.
It's happening
So
everywhere.
it's happening
The
everywhere.
rate is not even high
Yeah.
when you look at developed. Well, I think what country was that? Last week, coincidentally, I think I stumbled on a video about of a man who just went to the electric pole. I don't know if you saw that. You know how people share things, and he happened to be an Indian man, and of course now I lived in India for a while, so the suicide rate is terribly alarming there. Their religion doesn't give room for, you know, some succor that we get from, like,
Yeah,
Christianity.
yeah.
You know, for me, part of the thing that helped me was, you know, singing praise and worship and knowing that killing myself, you know, I don't know what hellfire would be like. So there was that cowardly bit of it, you know, for me. But you know, people are different. Some people would not talk and they keep it within. That's where we're also different. For those who do not talk, this
It's more
action
difficult,
is more,
yeah.
they, you know, it's more difficult for them. So now with that video, I saw it online, and he happened to be an Indian man, and I just made a comment. I was like, oh, that Indians have one of the highest suicide rates. Then somebody made another comment and said, I think he said South Korea. Then I quickly did, you know, a quick Google search, and I found out that it wasn't Latvia. Was it Latvia? One of the European countries actually have, you know, some of the highest suicide rates. Polish people, coincidentally, you know, they did an analysis, men and women. Polish women actually had higher rates than the men.
And the men, unlike UK, it's more of the men.
You know, most times, do you understand, for Polish, the women had higher rates of suicide. I mean, for some reasons, you know, I was looking at all this thing because one of the periods I lived in India, that was, I think I had gotten there on a Sunday, and a guy who would, you know, like the handyman, who would help us out and all that, and my friends, the other Nigerian friends out, had killed himself the day before. He killed himself on Saturday, and I got there on Sunday. So they were like, oh, and he's a very nice guy, blah, 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 you know. And they told us how they went to go and throw him in water. Of course, I don't know, where I come from in Nigeria as well,
It's a taboo.
it's a taboo. So
Yeah.
when you kill yourself, they don't give you that
Funeral.
whatever of, you know,
Yeah.
good funeral and all that, you know. Then I watched a film. It's probably one of the best Indian movies, you know, that's been done lately, Three Idiots. And in that particular movie, the title sounds very stupid, but it comprises tech. It brought out everything about India in one story. Now, in that story, there was a boy who committed suicide as well. Then they made a reference to it being a common thing among the youths there as well. Then I'm like, oh, really? I looked at their culture, the Hindu culture. You know, I followed a lot of things and realized that, oh, okay, for them, it's really, really, it's quite high because the society doesn't really support that much. The philosophy of the Hindu culture, of the Hindu religion, doesn't give you the option of, that's why when you watch movies, you see where a rich person can never marry a poor person. The Hindu religion doesn't give you the option of rising from poverty to riches because you've been condemned already, even as you live as a human. You know, so also a lot of things play a role in this thing. Like your own experience now, it stemmed from your experiences. Mine came from health issues. For some people, I've seen people who feel that
Might be, financial.
financially, do you understand? For some people, they feel, oh, I can't even take care of myself, you know, I can't afford what I need to afford, you know, which brings us back to the whole thing. We need to be a lot more caring. And people still judge people, you know, that particular thread, I think the person deleted it. I was defending, you know, not like defending, but I was trying to get them to see the reasons why
Yeah.
that guy committed the suicide.
No, most people
And we're
will
like,
not.
no, he's being stupid.
Stupid.
He's being,
This-
this is what happens. Maybe if I didn't get the support I got when I had the
You
thoughts,
would have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I might have committed suicide because I've also been judged. We don't know what might have happened to all these people. I mean, you had inflicted cuts on yourself, but you are lucky to be alive. You
Some
know,
people.
some are not. That is just it. Some are
Yeah.
just not lucky to be alive. So we need to be, you know, people need to be a lot more understanding because
Yeah.
at that time, when the thoughts come,
You don't think.
you don't think, you don't have control of your emotions, you don't have control of your thoughts, you don't have control of anything. It comes like, there's that thing that they say 5 minutes of madness. I don't know if you've ever heard it. It comes like that. There's a spark in your brain that just tells you, like a zombie, you know, you begin to think about
You even
it.
think blank. You don't think.
But the Bible
So
does say
that's
that
the-
when the devil comes, he comes in like a flood.
Mm.
He doesn't come in little trickle.
Yeah, he just-
So you have problem today, then you have another one tomorrow. When it was talking about Job, and within the space of 5 minutes, the first person came to him, servant, and said, "Oh, you've lost all your." What the Bible says, while he was still talking,
Yeah.
the
Another
next
one
one came and said, "You've lost your camels." While he was still talking, he hasn't finished his sentence. This one hasn't finished. Another one came and said, "Not 1, 2, or 5, all 10 of your children have died." In this, which one do I deal with first?
Deal with first.
he didn't have time to, and that's
even
how
his
it
wife.
can be. Even
And
his
his
wife
wife
said what?
and said,
Kill
you know,
yourself and
curse
die.
God and die.
And just
Just to
curse God
finish
and
this
go,
man
yes.
off. Instead of supporting him, curse God and die. That's how it is when you are at that moment of suicide. The pain is so incredibly overwhelming. And the thoughts are coming 10 to a
Exactly.
dozen. Kill yourself. Your children don't love you. You can't feed them. Your husband thinks you're fat. Your work colleagues don't like you. This is happening here. That you can't find money for school uniform. All the thoughts are coming in at one time. There's a saying that says we should stop pulling people out of the river. We need to go upstream and find out why they're jumping in.
Wow.
Exactly.
Why are you pulling out the boats? Go upstream and find them
out.
on the bridge and ask them, why
Why?
are you jumping? What's going on? What is the problem? We are very angry when it comes to how we deal with pain and emotion in the black community.
Yeah.
We're very quick to tell people you're stupid,
Yeah,
you're what is this rubbish?
Why are you doing
Yeah,
this?
you have money, you have kids, you have house. What is this?
Exactly. Exactly.
Jamaicans are like, we're wrong with you. We're wrong with you and everything. We're wrong with you. And it's not that simple.
that
It's
simple.
not that
It's
simple.
not.
Emotional
It's not that
pain is
simple, yeah.
unbearable. At
And
times.
people deal with situations differently.
Different.
I remember years ago, to be honest, I thought about it, I don't know, maybe it was, when I was going through my experience, I didn't know. But my sister who was with me then said to me, do you know, auntie, I knew I took medications in my hand and I just wanted to take it in and just, because I just felt, what am I living for? And at times I think it's when that your
That was
confidence
depression.
level
Yeah.
is gone, you're
Yes.
depressed. I
Yes.
just came back from Nigeria. I didn't even know that Christians get depressed. So I didn't know that I was depressed myself. I was dealing with issues I couldn't speak. Even when I tried to speak to one or two, they are quoting scriptures for me, making me look as if, you know, it's all your fault and all that. And she told me, do you know, auntie, that day I was naked and I was sweeping, pushing one chair to the other.
Yes.
You could
I
not
didn't
process
even
yourself.
know that I was doing that. It's only now I thought, you know what? I must have had mental health issues.
Exactly.
I
That was
didn't
what
know,
happened.
but I was going through deep, strong depression, and I didn't think about my kids. I didn't think about my family. But thank goodness I had good support system.
Yeah.
Who could pick that something is wrong with this girl? I remember my parents coming from Nigeria to stay with me, my sisters, and some people don't have support.
That support.
Network.
That's the difference. So if you were able to overcome it, don't sit there and judge somebody else, especially women. They realize, oh, why did she want to kill herself? Is she the first person that her husband will leave her? We deal with situations differently.
Yeah.
Differently.
Some people, it might be children that they can't feed them.
Yeah.
You can deal with it. For me, if I can't feed my children, I just believe that money is going to come. I'm the person that if I have a challenge, I will keep quiet.
Yeah.
I'm not bothered whether you're going to laugh at me tomorrow. I will come to you and say, you know what? I need money.
Yeah.
I need to feed my kids. That's me. Somebody else might not be able to,
Yeah.
to do
Yeah.
that. And all he or she could do is just to think. And when you start thinking, like she said, everything is going round on your head. And I don't think anybody growing up will just want to kill himself or herself. Situations happen. And that is why people need to, support. When you are, if you imagine that, oh, something might be wrong with this person, don't wait. Call them, talk to them, ask them, are you okay?
Yeah.
When I say, are you okay, don't tell me it is well, like we normally use as Christians.
Yeah.
It is well, it is well. No. Find out. Not when that person is dead, you say, oh, do you know he or she used to be depressed? I think there was something wrong with her.
Yeah.
And you knew, what did you do about it?
Exactly.
And that's my pain in the black community. You see somebody, I see UJ, she dances a lot, she does so much on social media. If I see her tomorrow without makeup, I know at times she doesn't put, and I begin to see her go to church on a Sunday, she's not bothered. I should not just sit and say, oh, what's wrong with her? I should be able to call her to say, come, what's wrong with you?
But that is one of the biggest issues in the black community,
Mm.
especially among black women. We go to extraordinary lengths to protect the image of the strong black woman.
Which is
Yeah.
not supposed to be.
And yet still inside,
We're
we are
dying.
dying. But as long as the weave look good and the makeup is on point and my clothes is fine, then I'm okay.
Hey,
But because we don't want to be seen as weak,
weak.
yeah, so we go to extraordinary lengths to protect that image of the strong black woman and not let people know that we're struggling or ask for help. But then that comes back from generations of you've been taught by your mother that you don't need anybody. Don't
You
ask
need
anybody,
God.
you just need God. Just rely on God. And I don't like when somebody comes to, you and you say, oh, I'm struggling, and you start getting out the scriptures. How is it they always miss the scripture about, was it Elijah or Elisha? When Jezebel was trying to kill him and he ran into the desert,
Why didn't you wait?
right? And he said to God, kill me. He begged God because that's where he was at that time, mentally and emotionally. He wanted to die. God didn't say, okay, I'm going to kill you. No, the Bible says he fed him and put him to sleep. Why? Because he recognized that at that moment, it wasn't death he wanted. He needed food
You needed
and
help.
sleep.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes our depression is down to our physical problems. If you don't sleep for 4 days, I guarantee you, you will start having suicidal thoughts because your body needs sleep. If you don't eat well, you will start feeling depressed because the body needs food. Not everything is spiritual, demonic, juju, voodoo, witchcraft, all these things. Even Jesus himself, when he was in the Garden of Gethsemane, the Bible said when he knew what was coming, he begged, if it is possible.
Just take this cup.
The Bible said his sweat become like blood.
Yeah.
The Bible said that his soul was vexed unto death. If that's not a person on the edge, I don't know what is. If your soul is vexed unto death, that's where his mind was at the time, because he knew the pain that was coming for him to go on the cross. But when ministers are trying to encourage people, you never hear them mention those
things.
Those scriptures to say that even Jesus himself at times struggled. Did he not get angry? Did he not cry?
Yeah, because
Of
we always
course
want
he
to.
did,
We
yeah.
always want to. Yeah, I mean,
Sorry, I just want to say thank you for everyone watching. Bussy, Adeswa, Mom, Pastor Andrew, thank you so much for watching. Thank you. If you can, please share so people are aware, people get that awareness that they need. We are saying no more deaths. We are saying no more depression. We are saying no more suicide in our community. We need to try our best to make sure that if we cannot stop it, at least we can reduce it. Sorry, you were going to say something.
so I was going to say
That
that.
Jesus power. Have you forgotten?
No, I was going to say that in our communities, we're talking about our communities. Most times in the church, there's this perfect thing, that the African community tries to portray. When in this particular society that we're in, depression is high in England, in the UK it's quite high. And one of the reasons, because I remembered when in the middle of mine, I remembered writing something on Facebook then. I realized that part of what people went through a lot back home was high blood pressure. You never hear that, back home where we come from in Nigeria, because of the stress there. The stress is so heavy that, high blood pressure is what people are suffering now. Whereas on this side of the divide, what people are suffering is depression, because a lot of us are lonely.
Yeah.
Now, the church is meant to be a place of succor. It's meant to be a place where it's supposed to give people rest.
Yeah.
But instead, what we get is the church also adding to our stress.
Condemnation.
Because you get condemnation, you get extortion, you get unnecessary competition. I remember, I think about 2-3 weeks ago, I was saying something about the place of testimony. I don't know if you remember. Where I said, I think that even that testimonies are beginning to lose their importance within. I don't know about. I've really not been to other churches, because I'm this kind of person. I mean, like she said, my praise and my worship is something I don't joke with. So fine, I'm born a Catholic. I think the only other church I've attended is a Catholic church, because I'm fine with the hymn. But I just don't know how it would be. If you go to a church where the praise and worship is not something you can really flow in. So now, part of the problem that I've come to realize is that in the black communities, in the black churches, the church adds to our stress.
because they want to collect money from you. They want you to compete with other people. They tell you that this person has testified. You know, when somebody testifies, most times our testimonies are around the good, you know, the good life.
Yeah.
By the time I come to tell you, oh, I've bought this car, I have this house, I'm also trying to tell you that you need to. And yes, society is also going back home, because we now live a society where everybody compares.
Yeah.
I remember that part of the things that we discuss, you know, you hear people back home, they'll tell you that some parents say, is it not your mates that are
Buying
just
houses,
start
Yeah.
building
building
houses?
houses.
Apart from the church, we need to, because we don't have good social welfare in all black communities,
Yeah.
not just in Europe, not just in developed countries. Look at wherever a black community is, any black nation, no black nation is doing well. Yes, suicide is not only amongst the blacks, but why is it that lately it is high with us? Because a lot is being exposed. Social media, the media, when this was discussed, some people will tell you, if you go to Google and you type how to commit suicide, Google will tell you how long, how many times people have searched that.
Yeah.
What Google has now decided to do is to now offer a counseling line.
Yeah.
So now if you type something like that, Google will give you a
Give you a
counseling
counseling
line
line.
where if you're thinking of something like that,
You go
call
for
that
help.
line for help.
Yeah.
That is what they've done to mitigate against that.
Yeah.
So it's happening everywhere, you know, but because I feel that there's a sudden surge within our own community, we need to really, really talk to ourselves. You know, sometimes when you're doing something, whatever you're doing might just, you know, put the other person at the edge, because somebody who is not fed well, you now come and you're flaunting your big holidays, and you know social media is also adding to it. Do you know that?
Yeah.
When you go on Instagram, you know, oh, and this person looks like they have a perfect life.
You know, I put weeks ago, I don't know, sometimes, apart from the community work I do, I know that I'm not a pastor, but when the Spirit leads, I just post. And I'm always amazed the kind of response I get inbox, because most people will come out to say
Yeah.
one thing or the other.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with that. You don't need to let the
Yeah.
whole world know that you're
Yeah.
going through what I've
That's
posted.
right.
I just posted in the morning, I said, you know, you don't have to borrow to go on holiday. You can, in my place,
Yeah.
they say cut your coat according to
Your
your
material,
your
not even
material, not
size.
even your size.
Yeah.
What that means is, if you have 1 yard of
Mm.
material, even though I'm big and I'm thinking of sewing a dress,
Yeah.
I can't sew a dress with 1 yard. What I need to do is to sew a top.
Mm-hmm.
So it's holiday time. If you want to go to US or whatever, Spain, good. If you
can
have the
afford
money.
it. If you, can
If you
afford it.
cannot afford it, you don't owe anybody an explanation why you're not traveling. I remember somebody told me, I think it was 2013 or 2014, and she went, oh, and you know, you mean you've not been to America with your kids and there? And she went on and on. I said, for the past 4 or 5 years, as a single mother, really?
It's
How?
not a prerequisite.
That was
Yeah,
not
that's
priority. I said, number one, America is going to be there, and it's going to be there for life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not the traveling type anyway, so I can actually be in this environment for years and not think of traveling. But you see, assuming I didn't have confidence in myself, like you're saying, then I begin to think, this person is doing well, this person is better than me. But when I went to a house, I'm like, really?
Yeah.
And she realized that the way I bring up my children, the standard, that, you know, the kind of living they have, she cannot compare it to hers.
Yeah.
And I told her, I said, my parents brought me up in Nigeria, and I didn't appreciate them more. Appreciate them then until I came to this country. Why? Because my parents were not billionaires, but honestly, there was no food in this country that I didn't eat in Nigeria.
Yeah.
The best school, he gave us the best. And that was how he brought us up.
Yeah.
So traveling to America is good, but I want to bring my children up to a level where they can fit in anywhere. Whether it comes to food, whether it comes to tutoring, whether it comes to exposing them,
Yeah.
you know, we are different. Social media is there, people are posting. Don't ever think that your life is worse than that person. Because she might be showing up, yes, it might be that they have the money, yes, people post,
Many don't.
which
even.
is good.
Many
But
don't
the thing
even.
is, in this country especially, somebody even posted, what if we have to use our credit card? Fair enough if you want. I don't believe in using credit card if I
No.
want to travel.
No.
I don't believe in using credit card if I want to buy a car. I don't believe in, there's so many things I don't believe in. That is my own personal experience. So if you are out there and you want to kill yourself because of what you see on social media, your time will come. Your time will come. You may not have enough today to feed your family. You may not have the best job today. But there is hope for you because you are alive. And once you're alive, there is hope for you. We have all been in that situation where we felt, you know what's the point of living? Whether through health challenge, like you just said, through domestic abuse, through sexual assault. You know this woman, she's gone through everything. She's gone through everything. I used to just think it was, maybe she went through domestic violence and we'll chat about it. But having a childhood, my childhood was so wonderful. But seeing somebody like her is still alive.
Yeah.
So if you are going through that and you're thinking, where can I go? Inbox us. Tell us, even if you're not in the UK, you're in Africa, in America, we will get you the right support right where you are. There's no point thinking of wanting to kill yourself, especially as women, as fathers. You have children. Do you want to see those children suffer? I told somebody recently, I said, if you die today, the same children you are depressed about that you cannot feed, imagine when you're not even there to guide them. How do you think they're going to live? They're going to suffer more. If you are struggling, forget about social media. Seek help. Let people know that you need help. There is no big deal. Years ago, somebody told me, said that, your story is just like an open Bible in Manchester. Anywhere you go, people know about your story. I said, it's fair enough. One is going to make me popular, maybe for the negative now, but in future, I will become popular. And that is why I didn't care. I had children. I was not on benefits. I was not an illegal immigrant. I was hiding from my parents. I didn't want people to know that I was going through just the way many of us do. When I realized that death is coming right in front of me, and I might just live this life without my children, my dear, I had to seek help. We need to seek help, yeah.
I want to appeal to parents. Those of you who are doing good as parents, I praise you, I honor you. But those of you parents who like to put down your children, the suicide rate among black children right now is very high.
Put it on again. Okay.
The suicide rate right now among young black children is very high. My house right now is like a hotel because I'm having to take in other people's children who have been thrown out of their homes by their parents. This is a different generation. It's not the generation that we were told you had to be seen and not heard. This is the generation that talk. If your children come to you and say, Mommy, I'm struggling with my A-levels, or Mommy, don't shoo them. Don't ask them, what rubbish is this? They need to hear from you. They need you to speak to them. It's a different time. The children are in pain and they're killing themselves because they feel that the parents are letting them down. When they come to us, we shoo them, we don't listen to them, we don't talk to them. We focus too much on how well they're doing academically, how well they're doing this, how well they're doing it. But what about the mental and emotional support that your child needs? Are you there for that? Or do you not concern about that? You tell them they must be a doctor, they must be a dentist, they must be an engineer. But what about the mental and emotional support that your child needs? Are you providing that as a parent?
So coming to you, when you went through abuse and all that, at what point did you think, you know what, I'm just going to end this?
I've tried multiple times to take my own life. Multiple times over the years.
Before you got married, then you got married?
Before I got married, during my marriage, during the domestic violence, I think the last time I actually actively sat in a room, I had a knife to my throat. I'd walked out on my children after 18 years, determined to go and kill myself. I sat in the basement of a church with a knife to my throat. I said that was it, I'm finished, I'm done, I can't do this anymore. The bills were sky high, I couldn't take anymore. If it had not been for God, I wouldn't be here now.
So how did you leave that point A of wanting to kill yourself to where you are now?
When you sit there, you always have to think about the consequences of what will happen. I knew that if I killed myself, my children would always be for the rest of their lives. There goes the kids whose mother killed herself.
Mm.
For the rest of their lives, they're going to be known not as Aroni and Tyra, just as the children of the mother.
Who killed
Is
herself?
that a legacy that
That
I
you
want to leave?
Exactly.
And then the suicide rate among children who are children of parents who committed suicide, it repeats itself. So I didn't want them to
Yeah.
think that, so that's how mommy deals with
Yeah,
her
because they
problems.
live in that bubble.
Uh-huh.
They live in that bubble. And
So when I have a problem, this is what I will do, because that's what mommy did. I will kill myself. I didn't want to leave that legacy for my children. And I didn't want the devil to win.
Oh,
I didn't want him to win.
that is a powerful one. That is a powerful one. That is a powerful one. Is a Facebook Live on now? Or the YouTube is on? All right, so we can continue. Yeah.
Mhm.
Wow. You know, you didn't want, I think religion has a part to play as well. Not wanting the devil to win, that's because you're a Christian.
Mhm.
So imagine people who are not
Not. Mhm.
Christians, Muslim, Hindu, whatever. They won't even think about that. And I also think that people who commit suicide, who have those thoughts, if they can for once think about their children, which I don't know how possible is that, because when you, like the 5 minutes or 1 minute madness thing, when you are in that situation, you don't even think.
exactly.
You don't think. So I don't know how I'm going to say this, but please, I think when it gets to that stage, it's because of things that have gone wrong in your mind.
Yeah.
So if you're going through anything, regardless of who that person is, or or where you are, just find someone to speak with. I think that's a good starting point.
Yeah.
Speak to somebody. It might not even be a church member or your family member. Just go on the internet, check counseling and support. How do I get help? Find out. Sorry, the Facebook went off, but it's back again now. Find out who can I speak with. And I think that was what helped me, because I'm one person. I used to be quiet when I was very young, but I realized it didn't help me. And in my first marriage, I saw that I was always quiet to a point that by the time the whole thing was, driving me crazy, I became aggressive at some point.
Yeah.
And I'm just begging women and men, because sometimes we talk about mental health and think it's just women going through stuff. There are actually a lot of men who are going through a lot also. You need to speak out. You need to cry out. There are so many organizations that are helping. And I also want to beg churches. When you go to the GP, for example, there is always in the toilet or anywhere where they will say, for example, if you're going through domestic abuse, call this number and all that.
Yeah.
If churches can have that kind of support,
Yes.
where they put on their display, you enter the church hall,
Yeah.
there should be some sort of information. Don't, because at times I might be going through maybe DV or mental health. I don't want to talk to my pastor. But just putting a number there is okay for me. One of our guests, you can sit with the baby. Like I told you, we're all mothers.
That's right.
So this show, we are not restricted to what we do. The baby is crying and she needs to attend to that child. I'm sorry about that. Like I was saying, churches. I remember in 2000, there was a time I wrote an article about domestic abuse in Christian home. And I remember a pastor saying, why do you always say churches don't have support? We have support. We have a home for people who are going through domestic violence. I said, very good. But how many people genuinely know in your church that this service is available?
Yeah. Exactly.
So we're talking about suicide, mental health
when it's
today.
available. Because the church is a small community where people know themselves, and we know how it is, where maybe by the time you share, people are also afraid. I would rather share something very intimate with an anonymous, somebody anonymously,
Yeah.
than, because for some reasons, it might still come out. Do you understand
Because
why it's being discussed?
There's no
You can fit it-
confidentiality.
You
is
know,
that what you're saying?
yeah. So confidentiality is another thing
that people need to be guaranteed of. I don't know how it works here in the UK, but of course we know back home is not something that you probably get from churches, because sometimes they might even use your story to preach.
I think from experience, really, in Nigeria, I think they were better. Maybe because they were more rooted in their foundation was great. I don't know. There are times that you run to church in Nigeria and one, your pastor won't preach it on the altar.
Yeah.
Even the elders that are here, they will not laugh at you.
Yeah.
They will come to your house and want to make sure that you're okay. It didn't matter whether the woman was going to church or the husband was not born again. They just wanted to help.
Yeah.
When I came to the UK, what I've seen so far, I'm not saying it's 100% right. Number one, I've seen that a lot of people with positions in the church, I don't know how many of them actually went to the altar to give their lives to Christ. I don't know how many of them were able to do these foundation courses, or were there people who just entered the church, started being active in church, then all of a sudden they're given this title.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why that thing is there. So they're not taught. They've not been taught. I was taught at the time I was an usher in church how confidentiality was very important as an usher. So when you are ushering and somebody tells you a problem, you need to be sure you can keep that.
Right.
So even my parents would not know what happened in church.
Yeah.
That was how I was brought up. But in this country where you go to a pastor, for example, it doesn't mean that the pastor must tell the wife if it's a confidential thing.
Yeah.
What I do in my office is my business. There are so many times people will come and say, oh, my sister referred me to you and all that.
Yeah.
Weeks later, they'll be like, oh, you didn't tell your sister this. I said, but she referred you, but that doesn't mean I have to go back to her to say, well, if you want to tell her your problem, that's fine. But I don't think, Wonderfully Made Woman, we should share stories. So people should be able to keep that. And if you don't even want to go to church, let the churches at least put those numbers everywhere. Let them see, because the rate of people, do you know that these people who have sent messages of this suicide thought, they're actually Christians.
Yeah.
So if they have those numbers in church, in their toilets, at the entrance, they don't need to see you. There was a church I was going to work with some time ago about the abuse, and they wanted us to counsel people, and they said, oh, but the only condition is for every woman that comes to see you, we need to know everything. And I'm thinking, how possible? What if the woman says, I don't want you to?
It's not everybody that has
to.
Yeah.
Even when we do events, there are people that will say, I don't want my picture.
Yeah.
We don't take, because that is their right. And they said, no, because it's in this church, you have to do this and this, we have to. I said, in the first place, the reason that woman didn't come to you is because they don't want to come to you.
Yeah.
So if they're going to come to Wonderfully Made Woman, I don't see why I should share information if the person doesn't want. We need to also understand as Christians, as Christian leaders, that not everything they want you to know. So if I'm here, I'm saying, oh, I'm going through abuse, and that's all I want to tell you. Don't say, tell me everything. Just look for the number for them to call. Advise them to go to their GP. Tell them to go to the organizations that can help them. Otherwise, you're going to see those people not talking. And before you know, you hear that somebody has killed himself or has killed herself. We don't want that. We don't want that. Please, abuse, mental health and all that. I don't know. I've not been dead before. I haven't been to heaven or hellfire. I don't know. People say when you die as a Christian, you commit suicide, you're going to hell. But the thing is, does that person even know what is happening in his head?
Exactly.
So before we start judging that this person is to go to hellfire, do you know what was going on in his mind or her mind at that time he took his life or her life? Who are you to judge? Christians, I'm talking to Christians especially, we need to start loving. We need to start showing that unconditional love. I've heard people say, oh, she didn't tell me she had problems, so I don't want to sound as if I know too much. If you know someone, that is going through something, whether you heard it through gossip, you should be able to contact that person and say, you know what, I've done it several times.
Yeah.
I would tell them, come, you know what? You know I hear things. I heard. You don't need to ask me how I heard, but I just want to find out if you're okay. I'm not going to judge you, just know that I'm here to help you. And a lot of people come to me. We need to help protect their own identity as well. So, I don't know. In your organization, what kind of help do you give to people? Is it just for women?
The support group that we have once a month is just for women.
Women, black
Yeah,
women.
just for black women.
Women, all right.
But the events that we put on is all inclusive
All right.
for everybody. But one thing I've noticed recently is that a lot of older women, over 50, over 60, have been abused in their childhood, abused in their youth, and it's only now
They're talking.
that they're talking about it.
Ah,
And especially the younger people as well, they're at an age now where they want to share their stories. They're not keeping quiet and keeping it in, so then they're passing on their pain to their children. You see, some mothers are angry and aggressive with their children, and the child doesn't know why.
Why?
I've been beaten, I don't know why. When the mother is dealing with her own pain from 50 years ago, what she never dealt with, and she's pouring that pain
on the child.
into her child. There's a saying that I love so much. Until the lion speaks, the hunter will always be glorified. Because when he was killing the lion, it was just him there. And he will come back and tell you how he fought the lion vigorously and he killed him this way and this way. He's lying. He didn't tell you that. He snuck up behind the lion and shot him. But because the lion is dead, he cannot tell his story. So the hunter is getting all the glory. Don't let your abusers get the glory. People will see them as pastors, as leaders, as favorite uncle, and they're going around society. Nobody knows who they are because you, as the survivor, are not speaking. So the hunter is getting the glory. Until you speak, until you share your story, your pain will stay in there and it will fester and it will grow. Those sorts of suicide, those sorts of self-harming. I'm a useless mother. I'm a terrible wife. All these things will grow and fester inside you because you're not pouring it out. You don't have to necessarily do it in a public arena like this one, but tell somebody. Don't let that pain, don't let that hunter, don't let that man who hunted you in your childhood, raped and sexually abused you, your mother who verbally, physically, mentally, emotionally, psychologically abused you, and she's still there now, paragon of virtue in the church, as church leader, choir director, all these things, and people are thinking she's a wonderful woman, this is a wonderful man. Tell your story. Because your story will help somebody else. Who is
might
going
just be
through
somebody
it.
close to you.
No, I salute your courage as well because not many people would, stand and speak up against rape. Number one, because there's a stigma attached to it. Then secondly, the fact that your mother is the perpetrator. A lot of people see their mothers as God, the next God after God, So for you to actually speak, I mean, you're brave. You've been able
She's
to
a
shatter.
wonderfully made woman.
You've been able to shatter a lot of stereotypes,
yeah.
and you're still standing strong because even the story is. I mean, my mouth was open. I'm like, ooh, for a 6-year-old, you really tried, honestly.
That's her childhood. If you need to hear her story when she was abused by her ex-husband. I don't know, we will have to bring you for another day. Honestly, there was a day you came to Manchester and we were talking for hours. I was shattered. I kept saying, no, that didn't happen. That did not happen. But to think that she is still alive. When the Facebook Live went off, she said something. She said she didn't want her children to grow. And people would say, those are the children of the woman who killed herself. She didn't want that stigma to tie to her children. She didn't want that negative legacy to live on. That was why she said, no, I'm not going to kill myself. She didn't want the devil to win.
No.
So if you're there today, you're listening, and you've been having this thought, why am I living? What's the purpose of life? I can't feed myself. I can't feed my children. I can't pay my bills. Do you know what I tell people? If I'm owing, you can't kill me because even Nigeria is owing. There are so many countries that are owing. Have they died? It will always happen.
Yeah.
People are owing every day. It's true. Am I lying?
No, it's true.
It's true. holiday. I only went to Scotland.
Mm.
People,
We wasn't travel.
you
for
don't have to do.
holidays, you know.
You see that peer pressure as well.
Yeah, peer
That's
pressure is another
that
thing.
thing that makes you feel. You know, people now define what success is to you.
I think that's what you probably need to look at. Maybe you know you need to look
Yeah.
at that as you know as a
As
problem
a-
on its own, because
yeah.
that's actually part of the problem.
Problem, yeah.
It's on the rise now. Peer pressure is
there?
contributing.
The best marriage is
Social-
there.
Exactly. You know, because you,
Best husband.
we have
my
to
best
learn to
husband,
stop
my
comparing.
sweetheart, and you are there being slapped every day, and you think, my own is finished.
But
And then they tell you you didn't pray well, that's why your husband didn't change.
Yeah, but when
Exactly.
you
So many
die,
things, yeah.
when you die and they're reading your eulogy, they're not going to say she had a lovely Bentley and she had the greatest Versace shoes.
And that is
Yeah,
true.
it's
true.
Every time the
At
person
your
has 10
funeral.
houses.
Right? They will not say that at your funeral.
Exactly.
Right? They're going to talk about the kind of person you
That you
were,
were.
not how many holidays you went on. Nobody cares about that.
Exactly.
It's about the kind of person. Oh, she was a good person. She was a wonderful mother. She was a loving wife. Not about your Gucci handbag and your Versace shoes. They will not mention that in your eulogy, my dear. So if those are the things that you are living for, you're a very poor person indeed.
Exactly.
You are a poor person
Exactly.
indeed.
Indeed, yeah.
There's a saying like that. They said the person is so rich that is so poor that all he has is money. I don't know if you've heard that saying before. You know, when people don't have substances,
Yeah.
you know, and that's where you know sometimes you wonder. Sometimes money is not all. You know, like I said about Kate Spade and all that.
Yeah, they've got
She had the money, she
Yeah.
had the
Everything,
fame,
the
she had
fame.
everything, but there's always that place of emptiness.
Yes.
There's that place of loneliness
Mm.
that pushes somebody into depression, because when you're depressed, you're going through it all by yourself.
Mm.
And by the time the thoughts of suicide begin to come in, I mean, when you're committing suicide, most times they go all alone, except for maybe some who would kill others and kill themselves. But most suicide, you know, people who commit suicide often just, you know, kill themselves all alone. And it's really rising. I know somebody who, you know, who killed himself, a very young chap. He had the best of life. I mean, even me then, I was like, what on earth would have made this, you know, this child, you know,
Hello,
kill
Pastor
himself?
Andrew. Sorry, it went off again before. Hello, thank you for watching.
You know, so I mean, it's the some of the contributory factors need to be looked at. For example, how she had family members around who were taking advantage of her. That's also something we need to look at. As women, when we feel empty, maybe we've come out of a relationship and want to go into another one. I keep saying it. We should not always jump in. I know I've raised this before. People are like, oh no, because you think you're happily married. No.
No. Mm-mm.
Before I go into another marriage, I'm happily married, and I think because of the fact that I'm married to a man who is taking good care of me, I won't want to take a risk. Even if anything happened between me and him,
Yeah.
I don't think I have that mentality that I might not get any good person, so I don't have time to come and start sampling somebody that will now, you know, when you hear people's stories of
Yeah.
DV and all that, you don't
Yeah.
want to be, you know, because
Like that.
do you understand? So I always tell people, I think I've had to say this on Facebook or share it. I said, if anything happens to my marriage, I'll remain single. What are the reasons? One, the stress of marital, sometimes it can be stressful. You don't have you're not very, you know, you're not fully independent. Do you understand?
Yeah.
I think I like my independence.
Yeah.
But it's just that society would, you know, compel you to marry. Then maybe I'm lucky to have married somebody who is nice.
Yeah.
Maybe if I'm not married to somebody who is good, I might not be
Take a
married.
walk.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
That's it. A topic for another
Do you
day.
understand? So now, for somebody like me,
Yeah.
I don't want to envisage the fact that I might be in the hands of a terrible man. So I'd rather be on my own. Do you get it?
Yeah.
Which is where I'm also coming from. If you have a situation in your marriage, don't just jump off. That's why I use the word jump off. Scrutinize the next man. What are his excesses? Will he take your children along? Will you have to dump your children?
Yeah.
Will your children have to play second fiddle because of another man? What if he crashes tomorrow? Do you understand? Anything can happen.
let that man I put my husband through the test too, which is why I tell people, if a lot of people come to me in Facebook inbox, oh, look at what should I do, blah blah blah, I tell them, put them through the test, frustrate the man, frustrate the woman,
Yeah.
so that you can know their true color when things go bad.
That's
understand?
another topic,
People
another
can
day.
pretend.
But people, even putting them through tests, do you know some people can pass that test until you get in? We just pray that we don't fall victim. We just pray. I have seen people put men and women into tests. Is it not marriage? No problem. When they get in, because we are not God, we can change. When it comes to marriage, and you're a woman or you're a man out there, your partner is frustrating you to a point where you feel like taking your own life. My dear, like my wonderful woman said, when you die, there's so many things they won't read about what you had. Your life is very important.
The only
If
say
you-
survived by.
Survive by. If you're going through abuse, if you've been sexually abused as a child, you've not been able to speak about it, you've not been able to tell anyone, and you see the person, that abuser walking on the street, you need to report. It's still not too late to
Yeah.
talk about it. If that is what is eating you up, if you don't talk about it, that's when this suicide thought begin to come. Oh, look at you. You're not good enough. You're not bad enough. Some even end up not getting married because of what they went through in the past. Some feel is a no. So they get married and they believe that it's okay for the man to abuse them.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So many things can happen. When your children come to tell you, this uncle touched my breast,
Believe them.
this uncle did this, or this neighbor, this teacher, this pastor, this alpha, don't tell them to keep quiet. Speak out. I have a friend, and she's going to be in Manchester next week. We have a women's event next week, Wednesday. You don't want to miss that day. Because we realize that a lot of women who have not been able to accomplish what they wanted, who are not as successful as they want, these are the things most times that, puts a barrier.
Around.
What their childhood, the sexual abuse, the domestic violence,
They've not dealt with it.
they've not dealt with it. So you think, oh, I can write, oh, I can be a business person, and you're still where you are because inside you are dealing with a lot.
A lot.
And that is why you cannot achieve that goal. So next week, Wednesday, 11 o'clock, you need to be at the Entrepreneurs Network. My guest is going to be sharing her story. She's a very successful person, but you need to hear her story of how she went through abuse. She does this Speak Out campaign for children who have been sexually abused. And we were talking last week, and she said that, do you know the painful part? When they go to schools to talk to those children, some of their mothers still want those children to hide it.
Yeah.
Because it's their father that abused them, because it's their uncle that abused them. And I told her, I said,
That's another thing.
can you imagine? Your child comes to you, a child you bore in your womb for 9 months. Sorry, we are over 1 hour, but let me just finish, please.
It's a passionate topic.
Yeah, a child that I carried, I did CS for my children. Then, God forbid, my daughter comes to tell me that one man somewhere, whether the father or, is abusing, then the next day I put food for that same man to eat. What am I protecting?
You see, that's where it's holistic. For you, you can fight that battle because you've built your confidence. Remember, there was a day we were talking about something that I said, if you remembered where we went for the makeup, we were talking about, for you, you can stand because you've already dealt with your confidence. A lot of these women, those men are still the ones feeding them.
Yeah.
A lot of these women, those men are the ones responsible for their upkeeps. I don't know if you got that. That's why I said it's got to be holistic.
Yeah,
These
yeah.
women have to first have confidence in themselves, believe in themselves first before they can fight for those children.
Yeah.
A lot of those women do not believe in themselves. That is where
And that
it
is
has to
why you need confidence. Even before I became confident, in my head, there's so many, you know, at times in life, like I said, I was very quiet. I was very dull, in case you didn't know. I never passed. I don't pass my exam. I was the dullest amongst my.
Really?
Oh yes, I shared my success story. Yeah, go on YouTube. You will see my success story. I was very dull as a first child. For my parents to read our results, my mom will have to put mine in the middle. So she will read the second one, pass. Read the third, pass. Read mine, get angry, and read the fourth. It was like that till I got to university. I was that dull. I never passed. I don't pass. They just push me. So my younger ones doesn't come to meet me. I was always second to the last, third to the last, you know, that kind of thing. That was my life. But even at that, I had this mindset that there were certain things I would not take. A lot of women, not all, some don't have confidence, that's why they're stuck. Like in Africa, they don't have that support system that we have here. When you speak out, then there's support for you. It's not there in Africa. Some women will not want to talk because of what they're getting from the man. But my own is, what I grew up with is, I cannot say I love my children and allow them to suffer sexually. No. I will not say I love my children and let them experience domestic violence. Those things, they are a no-no for me. Even if it means begging from streets to eat.
Yeah.
I will do that, and I've done it. Some people will look at the games and hide it.
Yeah.
Now, even in Nigeria, and I'm sure in some African countries, there are organizations that are helping.
Yeah.
So if I'm talking about people who have spoken to these charities and they say, we can help you.
Yeah.
And they're still saying, no. My dear, look at that child so that she doesn't grow up tomorrow and start thinking of, oh, I want to kill myself. Maybe they're even doing it now. You know, suicide is not you pulling that person out from the river, like you said. Find out why
They're jumping in.
they're jumping in. What is the support available? What are you doing to that your brother in Christ, your sister in Christ, your neighbor? Have you been there to find out why they're crying, they're sad? You need to love them unconditionally. Don't judge them. When they're telling you their story, believe them. Don't compare and say, this person went through what? Because we are different. I'm talking from experience now. Please, if you don't know anybody to talk to, call Wonderfully Made Woman. Yeah, thank you, Pastor Andrew. I love you. He said there is never a reason to tolerate abuse of any kind, but there's always a place or a person to find support. Speak out. Don't hide it. There will always be one person that will help you. And if you're in the UK, you don't know, please contact us. If you're in Nigeria, wherever you are, there is always a support system for you. But the most important thing, when you hear those thoughts of kill yourself, take the knife, stab yourself, my dear, tell that voice, I don't want you to win, because there is hope for you. You are alive, there is hope for you. Never give up on your dream. We have been through terrible things in different ways, but we are here today. Imagine I killed myself 2008. Just imagine. Honestly, just imagine this vision. Just imagine. It will just go. So just before you think of taking those drugs to kill yourself, just before you think of tying that rope, just before you think of taking the knife to kill yourself, think of the things that God has set aside for you to accomplish.
There's always light at the end of the
There's
tunnel.
always light at the end of the tunnel. I know we have spent more than 1 hour today, and honestly, I don't want to finish, but I will just stop there. But before I go, I want my guests to advise those out there who are actually thinking of ending their lives.
No matter what you go through, there is always a solution. Even if it's health. I know somebody might be going through, some people have been diagnosed with things like cancer, kidney failure. I've seen people who even in cancer scenarios. There was the story of a guy, Ali Banat or something, a Muslim guy. Immediately he was diagnosed of cancer. Check it, the gift of cancer or something like that. He saw it as a gift. He was a millionaire, but he saw it as a gift to give back to the world. He gave out all his designers, and till he died, he turned it for good. So no matter whatever that situation is, there's always the good side of it. Look to the good side and use it for the good.
Well done. Look for the good side and use it for the good.
If anybody is feeling suicidal or thinking about suicide, I want to validate your feelings. I don't want to tell you that you're stupid or you're useless. Whatever it is that's causing you to feel that way, it is okay to not be okay. But break down those thoughts. What it is that's making you feel that way. When you start to break them down, they will become clearer. But when they are very, very big and they feel overwhelming and you can't think, that's when the problems will come in. Please find somebody to talk to. It doesn't have to be a family member. It can be a friend. It can be a complete stranger. It can be somebody in the church. There are so many numbers, organizations that you can contact. The Samaritans are there. Please find somebody to speak to. And if somebody does come to you and says, I'm having suicidal thoughts, don't tell them that they are stupid or they're useless or they're worthless. Listen, don't try and fix them. They don't need you to fix them. They don't need you to come up with solutions. Sometimes people just need somebody to pour into. So they just need you to listen.
Wow. Have that spirit of listening. Next week, we'll be talking about the signs. You know, some people may not know that they're experiencing it. We'll be talking about the signs of this enemy. He's an enemy. Suicide is an enemy of everyone. But I want to say thank you for everyone that have watched. I want to say thank you for those that have shared and that will share. I want to say thank you to those who wanted to kill themselves, but they are still alive watching me now. I want to say thank you to everyone. And I want to encourage you before I go that there is always light at the end of the tunnel. For every pain, there is a gain. And for every shame, there is a fame. We are all wonderfully made. You're beautiful, you're special, you are unique in your own way. Never give up on yourself. Until same time, next week, we'll be bringing the episode 3 at 11 a.m. Please make sure you stay tuned. Thank you so much, my wonderful guest, and our little baby. Thank you so much. Everyone, thank you. I know we went past the 1 hour, but we just had to deal with it. My project manager is saying, yes, yeah, it's just a one-off. It's just a one-off. And I know that we might be there helping somebody.
Who you're saving.
Yes, saving lives is very important. So thank you, everyone. Thank you to my niece, who has been here helping. Wonderful girl. You know, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Pastor Andrew. Said great. Thank you so much. I want to say thank you. Always remember that you are wonderfully made. Bye.
You are wonderfully made.
Thank you for watching.